How you doing? It's Nick Weiss, and I am going to try to teach you some Les Claypool techniques today. Les is obviously a monster player, and he's got his own style that he's kind of developed over the years, and I know some bits and pieces of it. I'm not going to pretend like I know a lot of it, and I'm also not going to pretend like I can play it that well. But a couple of the songs that he has are pretty accessible, and Tommy the Cat is one of my favorites of his, and I've made a version that, even though it's not exactly what he plays, is pretty passable, and it uses the techniques that he uses. So let's talk about, first of all, his tone. Les plays fretless basses, which are really mid-rangey to begin with. To emulate that sound, you can do what I did on my bass, which is put in a phase switch on it, which changes the phase of the two pickups and gives me this really twangy kind of tone. Most basses don't have that. What you can do is crank up the mid-range on your amp, crank up the mids, and turn down the lows and the highs, and you'll kind of emulate his tone there. So let's talk about the first note of Tommy the Cat, at least the version that I have. Well, let me play a little bit of it for you. So the first move that I use is a rake across the D and G strings. I'm fretting the 4th fret, which is F sharp and B, and raking across those two strings with the backs of my fingernails. Les does that quite a bit, and he'll even do it with strumming. He does it later in this tune, in fact. So that's a pretty important thing to know if you want to learn Les Claypool's technique. The first note was this, 4th fret on D and G with that rake. The next couple of notes are a slap, hammer, slap, slap on the low E string. If you already know slap and pop technique, this is not very difficult. Slap, hammer, slap, slap. The notes are open E, and then hammering down onto 3rd fret, which is G on that string. Slap, hammer, slap, slap. For those of you who don't know the technique, you basically use the side of your thumb and hit the string down until you make a little bit of contact with the fretboard, and you want to instantly rebound. If you don't rebound your hand quickly enough, you're just going to get this dead sound, which we actually want later, but we get it a different way. But so it's slap, hammer, slap, slap. So let's put the first couple of licks together. Rake, slap, hammer, slap, slap. All right. The next move is going to be a pop on the D string. To pop the string, if you don't know slap and pop technique, you pull the string up with a finger on your right hand. In this case, I'm using my middle finger, so that the string releases and actually makes contact with the fretboard again to give us a percussive tone. You don't have to kill the strings to get a good pop sound, just enough to lift it up so that it hits the fretboard. All right, and the move is pop on 3rd fret of the D string and hammer on the 5th fret. Pop, hammer. The notes are F and G. So the first 3 little phases we have here are rake, slap, pop, hammer. And the last little segment of this lick is one of the hardest. What you do is, I'm holding my fingers over octaves of G, so 3rd fret on the E string and 5th fret on the D string. And I'm slapping and popping back and forth on those notes, but I'm not fretting them down all the way. My fingers are on the strings, but not pushing them down. If I were pushing them down, I'd hear, but we're getting these mutes out. This is left hand muting. And we get these clicks, and they're kind of hard to control, especially at full speed. Now, if you're like me and you don't slap and pop a lot, I gotta practice this from time to time to keep myself up on it. So, kind of a tricky thing there. And in some cases, I will actually hold down the higher note in this to. So we've got click on the low note and the pop sound on the high note in this particular song. Sometimes I'll completely mute it, sometimes I'll let that higher G ring out. It kind of depends. And I also add in this little chromatic lick here every couple of phrases. I don't think it's actually in the song, it just kind of sounds good. It starts from the 6th fret on the E, which is B flat, and then it's just a chromatic fill every fret down to the 3rd fret. So all together, I'll play it a little bit slowly here. I hope that was informative. Have fun. I'm Nick Weiss.